Welcome back to Biz Politics, everyone, and today I've got a very special guest joining me, Chris Pedersen, the current CEO of Pedersen Asset Management and former chairman of the Democrats Abroad in Australia, which was one of the largest country committees around the world for the Democratic Party. Now, I've got a few questions currently around the US political scene, and in particular, we've got some questions about Pam Bondi. Now, how significant is Pam Bondi in today's political landscape?
Well, Max, thank you for having me. Pam Bondi, well, unfortunately in politics, she's yesterday's story because she's been fired. But really, why has she been fired? She apparently did not do as Donald Trump wanted her to do. Well, she gutted the Department of Justice. It used to have like 10,000 employees. I think it's down below 6,000 now. It's struggling. Their priorities have changed dramatically away from international cybercrime to enforcement of immigration issues. Pam Bondi was the Attorney General that used to be the Attorney General for the state of Florida. So she's a competent lawyer, she's a competent administrator, but somehow when she became Attorney General under Donald Trump, she changed her stripes and she became a sycophant for Donald Trump's wishes. Now, when you look at the Department of Justice, it's historically been very independent of the president. For example, when Joe Biden, as president, wanted the Department of Justice to do something, Merrick Garland, who was the Attorney General at the time, would publicly rebuke Biden for interfering with the Department of Justice, because that is not their role. Their role is to serve justice without political interference. Well, we have a new world out there. So what's going to happen to Pam Bondi? Well, one thing is that she's supposed to testify before the House of Representatives shortly. And the interesting thing, I haven't seen this in the press anywhere yet, is that she's no longer an employee of the executive branch, which means she can no longer apply, or Donald Trump cannot ask her to assert executive privilege. As a consequence, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this week that there's an announcement that the executive branch, Donald Trump, has found a job for her somewhere within the administration, which will then allow for executive privilege to be inserted into her ability to testify honestly. But nonetheless, what do we expect with her testifying? It's really going to be about the Epstein files. Now, some people have said that this war in Iran is a distraction from the Epstein files. Well, that might be true, but the reality is, if it is true, it's not working because the Epstein files is not going away. Now, what will Pam Bondi do afterwards? Well, historically, when you're an insider for an administration, you have extreme high levels and valuable insight into how to lobby government. So I would expect Pam Bondi to join some law firm and be highly paid, because she can tell corporate clients and other clients exactly what needs to be done to try to get what they want to have accomplished in terms of contracts or whatever with the Trump administration. This inside look into understanding how Trump operates, how he thinks, what will make him feel it's important, your position versus somebody else's position, it's worth millions to clients. So she will be, maybe hired on boards, or definitely as a partner at a law firm, be somebody who can bring in clients for their own self-interests.
And do you think that this potential, or anything that happens next, do you think it would have big impacts on the midterm elections?
Well, everything has an impact. Now, the midterms are the first Tuesday in November. Where are we? We're beginning of April right now. In politics, they say in an election season that 2 or 3 months is a lifetime. That is true. So we see right now everybody talking about the midterms, and they're talking about how the polling is so terrible for Trump and the Republican Party. Well, yes, the trend is down, and that looks absolutely terrible. But 6 months away, anything can happen. So let's not count our chickens before they hatch if you're a member of the Democratic Party. And if you're a member of the Republican Party, well, things can turn around. There's always an October surprise that can occur. We don't know what it is. We know that Donald Trump doesn't like losing. He doesn't play fair. No law is above him. That Donald Trump will do whatever it takes to try to win this election, whether it is fair or not fair. The court system will intervene. Hopefully, the democratic process works smoothly. So in terms of predicting Pam Bondi today, and will she be significant in November, well, there is a level of significance, and that is how much are the things that she did to the Department of Justice still in the press when it comes September and October, which means that it also depends on who is appointed to lead the Department of Justice. Now, there's a Republican senator. His name is Tillis from North Carolina. He's not running for re-election, but he has said that he will not allow any nominee for head of the Department of Justice to clear the committee, the Judicial Committee of the Senate. And he is an important vote that without his Republican vote and the Democrats all voting against a nominee, that nobody can get out of committee to be approved by the Senate overall in their advising consent clause of the Constitution. Now, his criteria for getting his vote is the nominee must disavow the January 6th rioters in the Capitol building. This is something that's very important to Trump. One of his litmus tests for loyalty is they have to agree that the January 6th rioters were not rioters. They're doing their democratic duty to preserve an election that was being stolen from him. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but there's a stalemate. And Tillis is holding firm. So we will see that in a month or two from now, this is going to become a big issue. Will the person disavow President Trump, who is appointing him or her, or will they, appease Trump? And if he appeases Trump, well, he might get passed through the Senate, but Trump might pull his nomination. So this is another crazy, chaotic mess that is about to happen that's totally unnecessary and a distraction from proper governance.
Do you think we could see any more departures from the Trump administration within the next few months?
Absolutely. What we know of people like Donald Trump, that if something goes wrong, it is never him. It is always somebody else's fault. So if this war in Iran goes poorly, which right now we don't know the outcome, but it doesn't look good, that he will blame probably Pete Hegseth. He'll be, unfortunately, fired, or depending upon your point of view, it might be a blessing that he is eliminated from the administration. Can other people go? Well, he's already fired Kristi Noem. There's rumors of Gabbard being dismissed. It is difficult to fire somebody at a high level like this because it is admitting that they're not performing and you maybe made a bad choice in the first place. But there becomes a point when the political pain is too great that for self-preservation you have to fire somebody, have them take the fall for you. So I would expect that more people will be let go leading up to the midterms. And then we just simply have to see who is he appointing as the replacement. Are they more moderate? Are they better managers? Or are they sycophant that Trump tends to like? So, the question isn't will people go, but if he does, who does he appoint to replace them? Max, we could go on for hours and hours. This is a fascinating area that you do have to realize that not all political administrations are this chaotic, which gives so much airtime to talking about these things. When things are being run properly, it doesn't make for good news. When things are going terrible, it is very easy to criticize, and it's like in business, it's all about the outcomes. Is Donald Trump delivering what his promises were? And right now he's not. And that's the real reason he's down in the polls.
How is Trump's first term different from his second term?
Well, there's a big difference. In his first term, he hired experts. He hired the head of ExxonMobil, the world's largest oil company, to be his Secretary of State, somebody who knows what he's doing. He's a professional, smart, good manager. For Secretary of Defense, he hired Mattis, who was a general, excellent, well-revered within the military. Trouble is with hiring experts is they will tell you what the right thing to do is, and then as president, you have to listen to them. And if you start to tell the experts that you're smarter than them, that's a problem. Trump doesn't like people telling him things that he doesn't want to hear. This is why he went through a lot of people in his first term. But the first term was less chaotic than now. This time around, he's hired people who will do what he wants, but he's not a very deep thinker. And he doesn't think through the whole repercussions of all his actions. When you're running a business, you have a lot of choices, and there's a whole decision tree. And you look at all the alternatives, and you determine what is the best course of action, thinking through the first, second, third, fourth move, sort of like a chess game. That, where are the pitfalls? Where are the problems? So you try to avoid them. You look at a central bank. Central banks, when they make monetary decisions, they're not making a decision of what is the best interest rate policy. They are making the opposite decision. They're looking at all the various choices and saying which choice has the least risk of making a mistake. So it's an inverse relationship where they rule out the negatives to derive what the best course of action is. And in business, you have these massive decision trees, but it requires a lot of thinking, time, and patience. And I don't think the current president of the United States has that. And when he surrounds himself with people who are not willing to stand up to him and point out the mistakes of various decisions, you end up with an inferior response, poor decisions. I think this war in Iran is an example of this.
And lastly, going back to personnel, do you think that him hiring Elon Musk at the beginning was a mistake?
Well, the proof is in the pudding. That the U.S. government is right now in the middle of hiring massive amounts of people that they fired previously. Why? Because they can't get the jobs done that they have to statutorily. Well, through legislative action that has been passed by both houses of Congress and signed by the president, that's the law. And they're finding out that all of these requirements, laws of the U.S., they can't adequately fulfill these laws without hiring these people back. So the short answer is Musk was a mistake. The other thing with Elon Musk is he has a large ego. Trump has a large ego. Nobody could really see how the two of them could stay in the same room together for any length of time.